Gary, recession.
Yes.
What is your take on it?
Turn fear into common sense and practicality and humility, and everything will be beyond okay. Let me say that nice and slow so everyone understands. You should be fearful. Things are happening. Apple doesn't shut down production of iPhones for its health. Banks don't do what they are doing right now, which is clamping the down, right? VCs don't, even though they got tons of dollars to deploy, they're smart. What are they gonna just write a check at a higher valuation when they know the market's gonna be different in 6 months? This is real. This is the time to not waste money as a company or as a human being. Maybe you don't need Starbucks every day. Maybe you shouldn't order from Postmates every day. Maybe you should cook in your little apartment. You definitely don't need to be buying that you don't need. You don't need to upgrade your car. You may not need a bigger television. You may not need 17 employees. Maybe it's 11. It's devastating because you don't want bad for those 6 people. But like, if you go out of business, then all 17 people are out of business, right? So don't take it as fear. It's just real life. Actually realize the last 10 years you should have been grateful for, and you should have had gratitude for how easy it was. COVID wasn't hard, COVID was easy. The government printed an unlimited amount of money. Why do you think we're here? I love how people are like, it's their fault. It's not their fault. Who printed all the money? It sounded all fun, but the problem was people bought Dom P and PlayStation 5s with that money. Like, don't you understand? People are confused out here. They're living insecure and they need stuff to patch up their insecurity or to flex in front of others. Life is about self-esteem, period, end of story. And so what do I think? I think everyone should be very thoughtful about every dollar they have. Now, look, I have lots of savings, so I don't have to change anything. I can not do anything for 7 years different, so I'm less worried. If I had to change my lifestyle, I would immediately. And I'm gonna change my lifestyle because there's gonna be opportunities. And I'd rather buy a business during this time than have another extra fancy dinner. Like, people need to get the smart, be practical. Like, I don't know what you think's gonna happen. Don't hope, and don't ask the government to do something for you. Like, do it for yourself.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I struggled to stay afloat. I quit my business partner, and the thing that kept me going was studying the stories of famous entrepreneurs and seeing how they struggled and seeing what they had to overcome and listen to their wisdom and motivation gave me the courage, the strength, the belief to go one more day and see my business through. And in all honesty, I still need the inspiration, wisdom, motivation today for my business too. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Gary Vaynerchuk, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2 is don't try to impress others.
The amount of times I see kids like yourselves roll up on me and say, Gary, I'm gonna buy the Chicago Bulls. You're gonna buy the Jets, I'm gonna buy the Bulls. And I could taste it in their sentence that they know they can't. The place where it really works is when you stop peacocking and posturing to yourself as a measure to make yourself feel better and bigger, and actually are just comfortable with what you are, you get really into your state. This was what's so great about my life. You're a failure, you're gonna be a garbage man. And I was just like, I just like selling stuff, you know? And I don't care that everybody thinks that I'm not a lawyer or a doctor or an executive. Like, I'm happy. And if that makes, you know, I was a pig in at 27, making 70,000 a year. Pumped. Working every day at a liquor store, helping my family. Like, flow's easy once you stop lying to yourself and once you stop trying to impress others with the that comes out of your mouth.
Rule number 3 is hang out with old people.
How did you develop a healthy relationship with time, Gary? That's my question.
I hung out with 80-year-olds when I was a kid. I gravitated towards grandparents and great-grandparents from a very young age. My best friend when we first came to America, because we were poor and everybody was working, was my great-grandfather. He passed, unfortunately, a year into being in America, but I have always gravitated towards them. And what you learn when you spend time with 80-year-olds, if I could tell anybody anything here, spend time with an 80-year-old that is not your grandparent. Just have a combo, a dinner, strike up a conversation. To this day, the only people I strike up conversations with at airports are people that I think look like Yoda. Like, are they 90? I want to talk to them because they've lived it, they give you context, and I'm practical. Like, you're 36, KP, right? Like, think about this. Think about 15 years ago when you were 21. You probably remember your 21st birthday, right?
Yep.
It feels like yesterday, and it feels like 7 trillion years ago, right?
True. Both are true.
Right? So if you think about those 15 years, you can think about how much you've accomplished, how much opportunity you had, whether you accomplished it or not, how many reps, how many at-bats, how much time that actually is. Now, what I do is when I'm 36 and I do that 15 thing, then I go, in 15 years I'll be 51. When you hang out with older people, you realize 51's a child. I have unlimited 50, 60, and 70-year-old friends who act no different than my 30-year-old friends. And so a lot of you see me publicly going deep into youth culture. I love the kids, I love the Gen Zers, the young millennials, but I spend a lot of my not public time with 60, 70, 80-year-olds, and it's context. And that context allows me to understand.
Rule number 4 is fall in love with yourself.
What would you say to be the turning point in your life that kind of shifted to who you are today? And what could we take from that? If there's any advice that you can give to us from something that's happened to you in your life that made you to who you are today?
I don't think there's something super clear, brother. I think what the real answer to this question is something happened to me between 9 and 14 that isn't very clear to me still, that flipped me to a level of self-awareness and confidence that guided me my whole life. One thing that is very bonkers to me is how completely non-penetratable I was to peer pressure in high school. I still don't fully even understand it, to be honest. When I recall the things I didn't do in the face of why it would seemingly be so easy and so obvious that you should do that if you're a kid, good parenting, good DNA, circumstances. I do think there are some big advantages of growing up in the dirt, but what I would tell you to give you an answer that maybe brings value is how quickly can you fall fully in love with yourself? That you're so in love with yourself that you don't need validation from anybody else. While you balance that love of yourself with extraordinary levels of humility to offset the vulnerability of loving yourself.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is tweak your perspective.
The mainstream media and social media are doing a phenomenal job of talking about negativity and what's wrong. Just so everybody knows, fear sells. Most of the parents in this room use fear to control what they want their kids to do. It's how humans are wired. The problem for me is I got lucky in the DNA game, and I have the greatest mom in the world and a lot of great circumstances that made me the reverse. I look at everything I just talked about, if I'm sitting in this crowd listening to this, I'm pumped. I want to run through a wall and take everyone's money. If you tweak your perspective on how the world's operating, and instead of buying into the propaganda for control of your mind, you look at the optimism that these tools can create for you. If all of a sudden you look at your employees like your teammates, literally, I'm so affected by this. If you look at your employees, I have 2,000 employees at VaynerMedia alone. I genuinely think I work for them. I swear on my children's health. I work for them. Of course you do. If you're a great leader and you want to build something meaningful, you work for them. I was raised by a dad who taught me the reverse. That's why I know the difference. And I used to be mad at my dad, but then I got kind of a little bit older and realized my dad grew up in the Soviet Union, where the country controlled everything and the employees stole everything. The whole country ran on the black market. Literally, this is the first, I'm so pumped I mentioned it earlier. So it's my birthday, and I'm going to the liquor store, and I'm super sad. No, it's not my birthday today. I'm going back to the story. But it was my birthday a couple of weeks ago, so if you want to clap it up, I'll take it. So it's my 14th birthday, I'm driving to the liquor store. As you may be able to tell by the way I'm talking, I talk all the time. My dad does not talk. We're completely the opposite. We live 45 minutes from the liquor store because my dad wanted to have land because he likes cows and pigs and shit. So we're 45 minutes from the liquor store, driving on Route 78 in New Jersey to the liquor store. My dad says no words. I'm talking a mile a minute, like, I'm coming in, Dad, and like, wait till you see what I got. I'm gonna sell every bottle of wine. Like, I'm like hyped. Even, you know, like I didn't realize I was gonna get paid $2 an hour at this point. We pull up to the store after 45 minutes. He says not one word. He turns to me and he goes, keep an eye on the employees. They like to steal. That's what my dad taught me. I grew up in that environment. I grew up in an environment where I watched an owner be in conflict with his employees. And then I've run businesses for 25 years where I've done the reverse. I'm an investor in over 500 companies and watch closely. I'm on tons of boards. I'm watching. This is my passion. If you cannot deploy empathy and compassion for your employees, I once said something to my dad. He brought it up this weekend, actually. I said, Dad, if everybody who worked for you was you, they wouldn't work for you. I tell a lot of my friends who struggle with their employees, I'm like, I had a buddy who's like, I just want them to work as hard as me. I'm like, then give them equity in the business, equal to you. We have to reframe this conversation. You have to make it enjoyable and interesting, not because you're soft, but because you want to make money.
Rule number 6 is stay true to who you are.
We are at a point in our lives where we all feel very similar to what you talk about a lot in regards to having the most opportunity to take on risks and try new things. But sometimes you do the calculations in your head. And even though the risk of failure is so low for us right now, there's still fear of taking that step, a voice telling you not to. What are different ways that we can conquer that fear? Also, why do you curse so much?
I'll answer the easier one. I think somewhere along the line I realized if I just stay being myself, a lot of good things will happen in a world where nobody stays themselves. And I'm a Jersey boy from the streets of Edison, New Jersey, right? Like this is how I talk. This is how it is in my head. No different than when you wrote that down to ask the question, like that's what was in your head. When I curse, it's in my head. And what's interesting is it used to mainly only come out more in like public speeches and things of that nature. And then, you know, like I just never think, brother, right? I'm never thinking, right? And what I mean by that is I'm just being natural at all times. And so I don't even know when I'm cursing, genuinely. Really, I really don't. It doesn't even register. There's never been a moment where, like, I love when people like don't like it and they're like, he's forcing it. I just laugh so much because I'm like, if these people knew how, if anything, there are times where I think about not trying to do it, but still can't control it because I'm just in my flow. As far as your first question, it actually ties to the second question. When I started public speaking and losing out on speaking gigs left and right because I cursed, I knew that I was gonna double down on what got me there, which was I'm not gonna overvalue other people's opinions, I'm gonna value my opinion about myself. The little voice in your head is called the insecurity devil. The insecurity devil on your shoulder is your worry is saying to you, don't do this because when you fail, the girl you like, your brother, your mom, your teacher, like someone's gonna think you suck and you believe them. And that's the problem. If people really got into a place of just doing things that they want to do and not worrying about what people thought about it, everybody would take risks in their 20s. You, by nature of being in this program, are already taking risks that are different than your contemporaries, so you're already halfway home. But this is still school, even though it's different. And the real world of jobs and companies and starting your stuff, that's the real jungle. This is just cool right now, what you're doing. But the real jungle is scary because there is no system. It's not subjective. You know, teacher Adam can't just say you're good. The world tells you the truth. And people are scared of the world. That's why we have professional students. And so, I think the reason people are scared of the world is they actually think getting fired or having their startup fail or them not being able to be an influencer because nobody gave a is a bad thing, when I think it's a great thing. This all comes down to confidence and insecurity. The reason you won't do something is you are too insecure to do it.
Rule number 7 is make positivity louder.
The world was changed by writers, by poets, by musicians, by public speakers. Everyone here can have the world they want. The problem is, most people that are trying to do good or optimism are quieter than people that are trying to do negativity and bad. Negativity and darkness and bad is loud. They're on the offense. Positivity and happiness is content, thus not pushing themselves to be loud. One of the biggest things that I'm trying to do is be loud in the face of negativity, right? I see Vicky, one of my favorites, Vicky J, just like that, like in the face of anything and everything, I always want to go positive and do good. And I'm empathetic to people's feelings, but I'm always going to push positive things because it is positive. Life is complicated. There's a lot of variables. There's a lot of nuances, but positivity in this room needs to be louder. And so if he wants that, the reason he's not finding it is he's not putting it into the universe enough. More creative, more written word, more audio, more video, more jumping into me saying yes to this. I had these 30 minutes as if, I would have rather have somebody take a razor and slash my face than allocate the 30 minutes to this, given how much work I have to do before January 1st. And yet I said yes to this because intuitively I felt that I could leave a positive impact in these 30 minutes to somebody within the 2,000 people that are sitting here right now. And I was like, F it. And so it's painful. And after I hang up, I'll be like, I really probably needed that 30 minutes. But then in 9 months, 16 months, 4 years, somebody here is going to email me and say, I was listening to Twitter Spaces, you said something about accountability or kindness, and it changed my life. And then all of a sudden, it's all pro.
Rule number 8 is double down on creating content.
When I was doing SEO and SEM in 1999, that was underpriced attention. How many people here have been doing SEM for their business for over 15 years? Raise your hand. Anybody? Right? Just a couple. Some of you remember how good of a deal that was? The stuff that you used to pay 48 cents for is now $73. Supply and demand. I need you to understand supply and demand of attention, and I need you to understand that it's going to be content for a long time. We are within the half decade of people watching TikTok on television 24 hours a day. Social networks have won the next decade. Brand and business is built in social. You could do other things. You've got tactics that work, I'm sure. Direct mail, outdoor, networking. You know what to do. It's tried and true. To get value out of me being here today, I need this to be the moment you finally said, F it, I'm going to go try it again, or F it, I'm going to try it for the first time, or F it, I'm going to go 4x harder, because it's really this wild moment in time where all the attention's reshifting and the macro industry is going to decrease, which means the winners in this space are going to win, and the winners, in my opinion, are going to be the content producers, and you've got to find your way. And it's tough because the platforms I'm telling you are video-based. Everybody loved Instagram because it was easy. I'm going to take a photo, and it's going to look real good after I filter the f out of myself. And then I'm going to write a couple sentences, and it's going to be super cool. That is not the current marketplace. I know you want it to be, because that's a load easier than what you need to do now. But whether it's a podcast, a local show, one-offs, you're going to need to figure out what your pillar content is so that you then can cut up and produce. You're also more than welcome if you love the game and you've got the time to produce for it. But I know it's not going to be sustainable for most of you, which is why I'm pushing this pillar. And I put this out a long time ago, and a lot of people built businesses in many different industries off of it. But I think if you Google, and maybe somebody here can confirm it right now, but if you put, Gary Vaynerchuk content model 84 pieces, I put that out a long time ago. It's obviously the macros, right? Some of the details obviously change, but it'll give you a sense of what I'm talking about of make a macro thing, post-produce. Again, so many people here raise their hand following me. It's all I do. It's very obvious to you. You see what I do. I bring up stuff from 9 years ago and then clip me talking about something about 9. You just have to put yourself in a position to actually do it. But I'm telling you, and I'll leave with this and we'll go into the chat. It's the answer to the quiz. You cannot leave Las Vegas and not produce a lot of content if you want to grow or sustain. You can do whatever the f you want. You're not my children. I actually give no f***s. I would just prefer you win because it's nice, and I like getting the emails 4 years later, 3 years later, like, it's nice. I'd like you to win. This is the one thing you can control the most. I know it's around self-esteem and self-awareness of how to produce the macro thing. Written word, audio, video, figure it out, but figure it out.
Rule number 9 is find self-awareness.
The first time we met, you mentioned that we are the future of the company, and I'm in this residency program. I've been having that as a mindset. Going into the next 5 years, what is the best mindset and the learning path that I can take to become the future of this company? And I'm not saying become where you are. I'm just saying like to grow in this company and to be a big part of it.
It's a great question. I think a couple things. One is self-awareness. You know, let me give you an example of what I mean by that. There are plenty of times, and I'm as happy as it gets professionally, and there are still plenty of times that I say, I wonder how cool it would have been to have the DNA that would have made me like, I'm envious of a lot of my senior employees. I'm like, like yesterday, like being sick, it was not only bad to have 103 fever, it was even worse knowing that I was missing things that were really important. And like, I can't like rely on anybody else to do that role. So I think first of all, self-awareness, when you have ambition, even you asking that question, my fear is that you push yourself into places on an ideology versus the reality of who you actually are. So I think the best way people can be the future of this company is, one, they have a good sense of themselves. Two, they have a good sense of what they want in life, financially, creatively, work-life balance. Three, this is a big one. I want everybody to pay attention to this one. Three, that they have the capacity to change their mind 5 years from now. So some of you right now might be like, I actually do want Gary's job. I want to be the global CEO of VaynerX in 20 years. And I think that's rad. On the flip side, you may fall deeply, deeply in love in 7 years and then start a family and be like, I want to be like my mom or dad, or I want to be the reverse of my mom and dad. And I want to be at every recital and every ball game. And that's not going to let you be the global CEO of VaynerX. That's just real talk. So I think that if you have a good sense of who you are, if you're comfortable in who you are, and if you're willing to change your mind of what you want, that's a huge starting point.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is find meaning.
Where are you finding the most meaning in your pursuits?
Oh, disproportionately in the Gary V of it all. Like the Gary V content thing, like looking at these young faces and knowing that some of them think I'm cool, thus giving me leverage and equity for them to listen to me so that I can tell them that kindness and patience and humility and being a sweet person is actually the winning formula is massive. When I get the feedback from people that you changed my life because I realized I didn't have to be a face, and I'm not a face, Gary. I'm not a face, but I thought you had to be a face to win the game, right? Like, to me, that is profound. And, I think for the people here who like skew towards being a guidance counselor or like a camp counselor or like a head coach or, this will make sense to them because I have this in me. When you get your joy from other people getting joy from your actions, there's no better joy. It's just that what's I think a little bit unique about me, if I'm like analyzing myself as if I'm not myself, is that has come in like spiritual leaders, that's come in like parenting, that's come in guidance counselors and principals, and we haven't heard that from like gangster ass business people. I think that's what's probably, as I analyze it, I'm like, why the f is this happening? I'm like, that's right. Like, I can't think of somebody who like is crushing out here in that way. that's also spewing grandma. I think that for me, a high performing team starts with retention. Basically more than even how much money we have in the bank. I care more about how long are people staying at the company on average. So for me, a high performing team is first based on retention, which is just black and white math. On the gray side, the non-measurable, I use my intuition on how happy are the people. Some people stay in jobs because of money. That is often a gateway to unhappiness. And so it's not just retention, it's overall common sense / intuition / emotional intelligence to get a sense of how happy are they while they're here. And then finally, I judge performance or know how it's a high performing team based on the results. You know, for all the warm and fuzzies, I'm sure you sensed this in the book that I wrote, for all the warms and fuzzies and la 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 and all this, if you're, you know, in that book are words like tenacity and ambition, and I think work ethic matters, and I think results matter. I think that so much of the world's unhappiness and anxiety is based on the fact that we eliminated or demonized competition at the youth level. The idea that 8th place trophies are a good idea is a huge mistake, in my one person's opinion. And so the other way I recognize if there's a high performing team is if they're winning. And in business, that means they're hitting their financial goals, both top line revenue and profit. For me, not only do I measure success financially, top line and below the line revenue, in a year, I try to look at it in a 3, 5, 7 year window, thus giving, and this is important to hear, thus giving a team the ability to over focus on happiness and retention in a given year that may actually hurt them on their top line and bottom line revenue. But if I look at the body of work, I'm always building businesses in perpetuity. You know, we talk all about building brand, which is a marathon, right? Let's build a brand. Yet, you know this, everybody here knows this. The business operators from the CFO down care very much about sales. And we do many things to hurt our brand in the face of hitting numbers and sales, because we are in corporate environments held accountable to stock prices. What's great about running private businesses is I've only been running Vayner for 14 years. There was 3 years where we barely made a profit. I was transitioning, we were growing up, I wanted to try some things, I made a lot of mistakes, we had some casting issues, we had some product market fit issues, but you know, had I been a publicly traded CEO, I might have not been able to make it to that 4th year in the window that I'm referring to, which ended up being our highest profit year ever. A stunning majority of people in here are not unlocking the full max potential predicated on a lack of self-awareness. You'd like to be something, but you're actually not that. And what I mean by that is, when I think about video, there's all of us. I mean, when I look at my keynotes that I'm about to do, I'm like, oh, that's affected by Macho Man Randy Savage. That's affected by Richard Pryor and Chris Rock. Like, I can see like the things that I watched as a kid impact the way I talk. The reason I bring that up is I really think that self-awareness is one of the most significant aspects in winning in video. I think a lot of people are trying to do certain things that are just not there. Not that you can't build those skills, but I'm a very big fan of eliminating friction. I mean, the amount of people that I've watched in the last 15 years try to do me when they would crush by doing them. I bring it up all the time. Like, I'm a high energy, over the top, like very jerseyed out. I was just in Minnesota for 400 hours standing, taking selfies, fly to Vegas, do 3 talks. Like, that's a different kind of breed. Not that that's good, bad, or indifferent. I actually am trying to talk more about, like, I don't view that as like better. I just view it as I'm very good at being me. I'm really good at being me. Like, the only thing I think I actually do special is be me. And I think when I think about how are you gonna win in this play, you've got to really be you, even when it doesn't seem that you works. For example, for a lot of the youngsters in here, and definitely for people over 40, this is gonna resonate. When I hit the scene on video and keynotes, I did not dress the part. I cursed crazy. Everybody told me I was gonna lose, I couldn't win. And it happened. Like a lot of places wouldn't book me because I cursed too much. I didn't wear a suit, which was like fucking completely unacceptable 15 years ago. And like people are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I just don't have the ability not to be me. And I was willing to leave money on the table, accolades, everything. I was willing to leave everything on the table because I just did not know how to not be me. So as you sit here today, there's tactics, there's things, there's people you admire, you wish you were. I wish I could read. I'm being dead serious. I wish I could read. I have no reading comprehension. I have to waste my time on 5-minute calls all day long because I can't read an email for 13 seconds. I wish I could read. But I can't, so I have a different style. And that's how I think about video. It is very, when Musical.ly hit, and I knew it was gonna go, obviously TikTok bought it and it became one and the same. Everybody around me was like, but you don't dance. And I was like, that's for damn fucking sure. Because by the way, if I danced, you'd see it by now. I was like, I'm not gonna dance like 14-year-old teenagers on TikTok. I'm gonna put out my content. I'm gonna know that 14-year-olds are listening, so the adjective might be different, the reference might be different, the context will be different. Video, in my opinion, today, is a battleground of a quadrant that looks kind of like this. You need to communicate the way you communicate. There are people that are not dynamic, they're monotone, and they do just fine and dominate. They are. And so if you're a monotone person, then that's that.
I've been thinking about something a lot lately, which is a lot of my friends and acquaintances always ask me why I go so hard, why I'm pushing so hard. You know, because I'm very fortunate at this point in my life that I've put some wins on the board. I've achieved a couple of things. It always reminds me how surprised I am when people ask me this question. It reminds me how many people genuinely believe that financial status is the North Star. Their question is almost always baked in the framework of how much money I've acquired or have. And I always ponder that. It's always so interesting to me how the data, the math, is black and white on this issue. There is absolutely no correlation to one's wealth that maps their happiness. This is black and white. We continue to have a world that is confused that money buys happiness. It continues to be what someone who's hurting thinks is the potion or the antidote to fix it. Yet, we have unlimited amounts of hundreds of millions of people who prove otherwise. We must start there. The concept that you're gonna buy your way to happiness is the biggest falsity in human society, and we must stop doing that.
My belief is that fear is powerful, and however you were brought up or what your ideology is on safety, you put having a job on a pedestal as something that's secure. The logic for all of us listening to you right now is if you're making double what you make in there, it seems like a very obvious step, but I'm empathetic that you're scared to make that jump. My thing to remind you and people out there in a similar situation is it's not very hard to get another job if you fail, if you leave this job. And so for me, if we were friends and we talked all the time, the thing I would always remind you every day is if you take the leap of faith and some reason it doesn't work, which by the way, if you're making double your salary as a side hustle, if you give 100% of your time to that, I have a funny feeling it's going to work out. But I would remind you that you could always go and get a job again in the same industry, maybe for a different company. Believe it or not, and I've seen this sometimes for the same company because they missed you, that's what I would pound into your head because whatever you grew up with, it created an ideology that a job was safe. Does that make sense to you, Mo?
Yeah, Absolutely, guys. Thank you very much.
Listen, before you leave, you need to re-listen to that over and over and over. Every human being is the byproduct of what they listen to. So if you're listening to your parents or a +1 or somebody else that's saying, no, don't make the jump, you're not gonna make the jump. If you listen to somebody who's saying something practical like, take the jump, and oh, by the way, if it doesn't work, you can always go back, and if it fails, who cares about other people's judgment? Then you'll jump. This is hard. The concept of teaching someone to be more self-aware is something I've been thinking about for a long time. You know, I think the thing that drives so many of us crazy in the world is interacting with those that struggle with self-awareness. I think one of the hardest things for people to deal with is hypocrisy. We struggle with it, and I struggle with it. The exercise in the book that I decided to do was creating frameworks for the people that know you the best to create a safe space for them to be able to tell you the truth. I think one of the reasons people struggle with self-awareness is because they have enablers around them that are allowing them to get away with bad behavior. And so I'm spending a lot of time trying to think about how one puts the people that knows them the best in a safe place to actually give them the critical feedback that could be the jarrer of a journey towards self-awareness. It's a very tough challenge. I don't know if I have the answer. What I can tell you is, no question, the business leaders that I admire, the human beings that I admire, are the ones who are off the charts in self-awareness. I'm incredibly grateful for the luck of the DNA game that I think gave me a lot of it. I would argue that the only reason I have any level of popularity is because of self-awareness, because of the kind of communicator I am and my personality. I would be completely not palpable if I didn't have high levels of self-awareness, because I have some really funny attributes as a communicator. And so it's a conversation we need more of. I do think that self-awareness has a very interesting relationship with accountability. I think that a lot of people actually know what their shortcomings are, but they try to navigate the world in a way where they are hoping that people don't notice. And it's something I'm thinking a lot about. Down the street, all walks of life, all different scenarios, all different challenges, all different opportunities, all different levels of happiness and hope, optimism and delusion. And that's just like the world, right? The world is just filled with so many different truths, and people's truths change hour by hour, day by day. People's truths have changed in line today since VCon. Right, there are many people I saw in Minnesota in May that have a different reality right now in late July. In 7 weeks, somebody got sick, something popped off in a good way. And so, you know, everyone's always looking for answers when answers are always changing and evolving based on the questions, and questions are coming up on a daily basis. So this is not about a tactical, like, here's the blueprint, go do this. This is about a perspective and a sustainable mental framework that allows you to deal with anything and everything, and that is grounded in gratitude, and that is grounded in practical optimism, and that is grounded tactically in underpriced attention and opportunities. That's why you're gonna hear from me so much about Facebook pages and YouTube Shorts now, because the attention and where you need to put your energy, your output, your content, your information, your music, your art, your ideas, your business development, those will change. But what everyone is in search of and in need of is a sustainable mental framework. And that is what I'm gonna continue to work on, which is like, if you're able to see the world through the eyes of attacking hate with love, through the eyes of tenacity and work ethic are part of the formula, thus find something you like, otherwise you won't be able to work that hard. You know, if you're able to figure that out, if you are stuck in a 9 to 6, or even a 9 to 9, because you have 2 jobs and your situation's such a challenge, because you're feeding 4 people in your home as a single parent, and you've got 2 jobs, you're 9 to 9, The question is, can one of those, because one of them is just extra cash, instead of having a 5 to 9 where you're actively doing something, can you get a 5 to 9 for the same $15 an hour at a store, or be a receptionist or a night guard where you can work on your phone while you actually do your job, right? It's like, to me, this concept of people saying, well, I'm stuck, is just actually not true. It's true because you think you're stuck. The actual world, God, the world doesn't think you're stuck. You just haven't figured out the move you have to make to unstuck you and unstick you. And that's exactly what I just said in that little scenario right now, which is like you're working 5 to 9, but like you're doing something that doesn't let you be on your phone, but you switch it and get paid the same amount and sit at a chair that's not bothered often, security guard, retail cash register, where it's not a busy store, front secretary, driving Ubers around, and every time you're not driving, like maybe that's half and half there. I'm just spitting here free flow about you're not stuck. You might have it much more challenging than others. That's why I go so crazy about 20-year-olds. 20-year-olds, so many of them don't have the handcuffs. That's why I'm so passionate about 20 to 30. I'm not less passionate about 50 to 90. It's just that 50 to 90 comes with baggage, comes with being a little stuck. Children, mortgages, debt. 20 to 30 comes with just opportunity and just gotta get the out of the school system and parents' traditional bullshit points of view. They have plenty of good points of view. This is not binary. Parents are the best, parents are the worst. School's the best, school's the worst. I'm the best, I'm the worst. Everything is both. Everybody just wants to be one thing. It's gotta be all blue. It's gotta be all red. It's purple. It's always purple. Nothing's binary, but what is binary is if you are pessimistic and you say you're stuck, then it's over. If you've decided it's over, there ain't no video I can make to make you unover. Or there is, which is why I'm motivated to do it. The fact that one human being can say one thing at the right second to another human being that can fundamentally change the process of their life because they have now decided to open up a different perspective and see the world differently is the most intoxicating, most powerful reason that human beings are the best in the world. And I will continue to be one small version of a human being, one of many millions of people that are out there. And I don't know if I think it's billions, but I definitely think it's tens of millions, and I do believe it's hundreds of millions. Do I think it's 12% of people? Maybe not, but I definitely think there are tens to hundreds of millions of people who get deep happiness for themselves out of trying to be a communicator to help others. Some do it at the highest level of distribution like me, others do it for their child, thus making me change my mind. It is billions of people. It is billions of people. There's absolutely over 1 billion people on earth that are passionate to use their words to make somebody's life better. It's called parenting. For me, the happiness part is the only part. I was happy as f in this store down there in 2001 where nobody in the world knew who the f I was. I was as happy 21 years ago in this building, and it wasn't even this building, this was built later. It was a little building down there facing that street right down there 21 years ago as I am this exact second. Not a dollar, not a fan, not a nothing. Nothing that has happened to me publicly in the last 20 years has added a single ounce of happiness. The process is my happiness. And there's no way to get to a great place without it. You'll just burn out. To your point, I genuinely believe the reason I can take the feedback is because when I go into my Instagram post that I just posted, literally in back-to-back comments, one will say that I'm walking on water and the next will say that I'm a snake oil salesman charlatan. The fact that neither penetrate my psyche is absolutely where I'm at.
Absolutely. And that's equanimity, right? Like that is that, whatever you want to call it. But
it's the game because people want the positive reinforcement that, there's so many models on Instagram, right? Men and women. You're so beautiful. You look so great. You're so beautiful. You look so great. You're full of shit. You look fake. They're crushed because they take too much in that you look so great.
Yes, and I think that's the point that we're hitting on here, which I love, is that overemphasis on positive it's what makes the negative so hard to take.
It's also an incredible place for me to add some clarity that I haven't done a good job on historically, which is something I'm thinking a lot more about. Raghav, it's fun to see you here because we had this call yesterday. I'm like, look, I'm at my worst when I'm excited in an interview and I'm drilling a headline because I love doing it. It's fun. It's showmanship. It's wrestling, promo videos. It's my natural state. You know, I talk a lot about not giving a fuck about other people's opinions. It's also because I take the complete opposite approach, which is every negative piece of feedback that I get, I genuinely go into two places. A, I deploy sympathy and empathy for the person leaving the comment because inevitably, immediately on that action, I know that they're not in a good place. If you go to somebody else's social, consume it, and then spew hate, you're not in a good place.
No, absolutely.
You're unhappy.
Yeah.
Next, I start trying to see the insight to any truth in it. You know, the second that you're high on your own supply, you're vulnerable.
Yes.
And so 100%. I don't give a fuck about anybody's opinion. Ironically, I value everybody's opinion. I just synthesize it and then decide to take the good from it.
Yes.
By deploying empathy and sympathy to the deliverer of the, I'm stunned by our lack of conversation in society right now on this part. There's a lot of judgment and hot takes and comments. We need to judge the person delivering the message.
Absolutely.
Like how is your mother's opinion of you have the same weight as Anonymous 54's comment on Instagram?
Yeah.
That is ludicrous.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the same way of how does a coworker's opinion, you have to factor that in different than your mother because your mother blindly thinks you're the best if you're lucky enough to have that mother, you know, and so it's super fast. It's just pulling from opposite directions. And I think, you know, I'm pulling so hard from opposite directions that my balance is coming in that.
Let's talk about why you actually listen to somebody else's point of view on your life. Let's talk about why somebody else's point of view on your life is something you're willing to accept. I am fascinated by people's ability to take strangers' comments on a social media post and allow it to make them upset. You post something and you're happy to post it, and then somebody literally leaves a comment that you're unattractive, you're stupid, like literally high school and junior high teasing. And your entire day, sometimes week, sometimes month, is completely ruined by a human being who is on the other side on their phone, who is hurting so much with their own life that the need for them to make it palpable is for them to take time to go to other people's lives and try to tear them down to make themselves feel better. This is what I call let's stop clapping so I can finish this one. This is what I call a circle of insecurity. A circle of insecurity. The concept that that is happening is not Facebook's fault, is not Instagram's fault, is not TikTok's fault. It's not. We have become infatuated with blaming the platforms for our own shortcomings until humans decide to lean into accountability and stop blaming platforms and politicians. People will continue to be unhappy.
This is a very simple business conversation. If you want to sell things, it's a good idea to make it easier for people to buy from you. And so the innovation is the mindset. The innovation is going home now and deciding what you just saw in this talk and saying, is he right or is he wrong? Mm-hmm. And if you find yourself saying, he's right, but I don't want to, I really mean this, that's okay. But then you have to be honest with yourself of where you are in your career, whether that means maybe doing something else because you don't have fire for it,
or being content, which is fine, a beautiful thing if you're content, but you have to be aware that this is all happening around you. I don't have to tell this room how much innovation is going on in this space. You've got the biggest technology companies in the world interested in your money. I know what the big tech companies are doing. I know what's happening with blockchain. I know what's happening with the 20-year-olds that everybody makes fun of who are picking up incredible market share from a lot of you because they're actually being seen on social. They may not know the business yet, and you love making fun of them for that. I got bad news for you. That they'll figure out.
Yeah, no, that's. May need to take a pause on that one.
People make fun of things until they don't. Everybody made fun of the Kardashians until they didn't. Everybody made fun of Tesla till they didn't. Everybody made fun of my pictures until they sold for $1 million today on Christie's.
Congratulations.
People love to make fun of things. And what I'm worried about is this room's too successful.
That's a great
Success is the beginning of the end.
What are some of those, you've spoken candidly about your parents and the meticulous upbringing. What are some of the things they taught you that now even get you to sit here and give back in such a fashion?
I think gratitude is the reason I give back. I think the single reason I want to put out all the content and do things like, I'm very compensated for a speech like this, but no longer does that make financial sense to me in my business world. It's just amazing to be here with all of you. I love it. Why? Because I know how I communicate. I know that I come here with an agenda, and that agenda is to suffocate one person in this room's bullshit with the hope that it's exactly what they needed to go do something, so that in 4 years they could send me an email and say, I was in San Diego in 2021 and I thought I was hot shit, but then you got me, and then I got my shit together. And now my family's so much better. And that feeling for me is better than even when I'm winning. So my selfishness is my selflessness. It's fun for me. I'm already good. It's very easy to give when you're fulfilled.
Sure. Right?
And so for me, what happened? My family heritage was crazy up. My mom lost her mom at 5. My dad lost his dad at 16. We lived in the Soviet Union. A lot of people don't know this. I didn't realize how many people don't know this. You weren't allowed to leave the country. The country was a prison from 1918 to 1990. A prison. You weren't allowed to leave. Leave. Everybody spent time in jail because the government owned everything. Cuba and Venezuela are a vacation compared to Soviet Union in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. So, here I am. We left in 78. I'm growing up in America, and this is going to really hit for this room. I'm growing up in America, but am I really? Because in my 4 walls, it's Russia. Right? But I have both. Right? So in the house, all I'm hearing every Friday night and on the weekends is the stories of the old country, and it's a disaster. And I'm out here drinking Coca-Cola and watching Mickey Mouse. And so very quickly, I'm just thankful. I'm just grateful. And so gratitude was big. The other thing they taught me was the story looked like this. 6th grade, Nintendo explodes. Right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, Mom, Nintendo. And she's like, good, go get it. And so, that framework gets you serious about lemonade and washing cars and shoveling snow. And so my parents taught me a level of work ethic that I would, in hindsight at 45, say was probably too extreme. The 3 of us talk about it a lot. I think all of us collectively look at each other and say, maybe we took it to 130, 100 would have been fine, 80 would have been fine. We lived in 130. I worked, from the time I was 14, I worked every weekend and every summer vacation day of my life. All of them. Like when people hear it, I don't think they understand all of them. Not like kind of, like you meet people, they're like, they helped out in their family business every day. I was a terrible student. My parents sat me down at 14 and they're like, you're not going to Harvard, so you're gonna work every day. And so work ethic was taught. And then I had such a gift of communicating that my father really, really impacted my life because he has no tolerance for lying. And I had an incredible ability to manipulate everyone on earth. And when you're young and you realize you have gift of gab, you have no idea how to fully function with it, right? And so my dad really helped me because I was so scared of him. And for my father, embellishing or a slight exaggeration was like a death blow. He keeps it so straight, and that really helped me a lot. I think about that a lot. I was gifted with so many things, but it really worked out for me on how they parented me. But it all comes down to gratitude. When I tell you the only thing on earth I care about is the health of my family, it is the only thing I care about. Everything I do in business is a game. I don't give a shit. Money, all of it, health.
At 22, the only thing I wanted to do was build my family's business for them. And I was kind of like, the talks I was having were weird, which is like, you're gonna give up the best years of your life for your parents because they did it for you. And like, I had like this altruistic, like noble, like family immigrant vision, and I was psychotic about it. Like literally did not, like actively tell people like everything is best in balance. Like it would have been okay if I went to the Jersey Shore once in my 20s. It would have been okay, but I didn't. That's how psychotic I was. I think, but the reason I'm so happy is because I'm gonna give you the answer of what ties that together, which is the only thing you should be thinking about is if everything was perfect. Like as if I was a genie from the future and can grant your actual wish, you have to try to make that actually happen. Meaning, even if you've never said to your dad, only to yourself, not even your best friend, like if you've said to your own self that I want to be an actress, or I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a Supreme Court justice, or an entrepreneur, whatever that is, whatever it actually is, that's what 22 to 30 is about. It's all high risk. It's the biggest falsity that has been sold to kids. Now you've got to actually know what the you're doing. As if you're actually in the best position ever to execute something that's not practical. You don't need a lot of money to live. You can live with 40 of your friends, let alone 3. You could. You can eat like in your 20s, so you can buy dollar food, and like you can just, you don't have kids, you don't have, oops, sorry. You are in the most practical place from 22 to 30 to do crazy ass shit. But the world has taught kids that that's the time you're supposed to have it figured out. It's insane. So my advice to you is, whatever your biggest single dreams are that you've kept to yourself, have been scared to even think you could, you've got to challenge yourself to try. And that looks like this. Whatever I just said, if it is Supreme Court justice, it's interning, it's paying a law firm, even though you didn't go to law school, to like be an assistant. Like, people don't understand how life actually works. Like, if you could just get into the game, weird things happen, right? If it is Hollywood life, like you need to move to LA and like work for, like it's working for free, which comes in all shapes and sizes. Your dad is a successful business person. You might be able to afford to work free, and that's okay. That's like family dynamics. Work for free is also working at Ryan Reynolds worked at Safeway. That's working for free. That's $9 an hour. Like, that's the theory, right? Like it's zero if you're miraculously in that situation. Most people aren't, some are, it's okay. My kids will be, for example, it's okay. Or minimum wage, but in the thing. Or a job that gives you plenty of hours to be in the thing. I tell a lot of people who want to be influencers to get like a job at 7-Eleven and just make content all day while they're standing behind the register. Like, you know what I mean? Like, get a job that's not actually making you do anything so that you have time to do the thing.
It's true.
I mean, I don't even want to think what people are doing right now that I'm paying them. So you have to go for your actual dream, the one that scares you the most, because it's the one you want the most, but you haven't even thought you had a chance to do it.
That makes sense.
It actually makes sense. This is why I'm so passionate about it. If not now, when?
It's true, very true.
But the world really everybody up. Like this concept that you have to, now you went to college and you thus now know what the you want to do? Who? Of course, ironically, orthodontist, doctor, lawyer, yes, of course there are a small group of professions that the passion and the school, and for everybody else, nobody's doing the thing. What?
Exactly.
And that's where everybody is. And you guys know your options. You have so many options because of technology, but the real answer to your question is the dream that you haven't even felt comfortable believing in. The number one thing I've recognized in the last 25 years of managing people about high performers is their North Stars change. So a 24-year-old who's come in here 2 years in and is completely dominated may sit down with me and she may tell me that she's gonna be the CEO of the whole company one day. And I get excited. I go, good, because I'm old and I can't wait for someone to take over. And we laugh. Sometimes that 24-year-old at 29 finds their life partner. And all of a sudden, she and he's not in the office 15 hours a day every day. And they're not going down the path of becoming the CEO anymore. And I'm very conscious of that. First of all, don't forget what I said, high touch, so I'm paying attention. And either if they sit on it too long, or they tend to bring up like, hey, I think I need a little more work-life balance. And I'm like, mazel tov, amazing. I don't need you to be the CEO. You wanted to be the CEO. You're gonna work your face off. Let there be no confusion. There is no other way. And back to the earlier question, that's too big of a price for some people with family. Others figure out how to manage it, and everything in between. Everyone has their own situation. But the reality is with high performers is allowing them room to change their mind. Number 3, understanding the balance between praise and truth and candor. A lot of times people are over complimentary of high performers or disproportionately under complimentary depending on what strategy they're deploying. Many people try to pick at the shortcomings of their high performers to keep them in line. Others try to over-verbalize to keep them in line because they give them positive reinforcements, but they can't afford maybe the financial or the title things that the person's, and the truth is, you've got to find the middle. It's got to be based on the actual truth. And people struggle with that because they're using one or two or both sides of the equation of what I just said. So for me, it's a lack of fear of losing them. It's a deep commitment to an actual relationship above and beyond the professional one. It's over communicating with them when you're not going to deliver on what they want. Gary, I need to be a senior vice president this next race cycle. Let me sleep on it. 3 weeks later, hey, I think it's gonna be an extra cycle. And here's why. And I always say this, hey, I'm making a subjective decision. I might be wrong. I'm in the unfortunate position to have to make that subjective decision. And you have humanity. Humanity's missing. Do I believe that work ethic is a foundational piece of success? Yes, I do. Do I want anybody ever to work so much that they get depressed? Of course not. I never think that money is the driver. And so I think whether it's lazy headline reading or not doing homework, yeah, it's not been the most fun to get dragged into.
No, I was like on my phone reading that article. No, and there's so many people who are proof of the words that you say, me included. So yeah, it's like, oh, maybe
listen, there's a byproduct of success.
Yeah.
Where people will, hustle porn is a term, leveragepreneur is a term. Leveragepreneur is when you're using other people to build yourself up at the cost of the other person, And, I think that as you get bigger, people will leverage you. And I'm okay with that because the truth always wins in the end.
Right.
And, I know the body of work that I put out, my intent. And if you want to clip one thing or one definitive statement from one talk without the context of the whole thing, of course you can say anybody says anything. But the reality is that, I believe work ethic is important if you want to achieve hyperbolic success. I don't want to tell people how to be happy.
Yeah.
So why are you telling me how I should be happy?
Mic drop.
And there's plenty of people that are super depressed that work 40 hours a week. Like, it's just hyperbolized link baiting, leverage-preneuring, and I'm okay with that. But at the same token, it's important not to not take other people's points of view into account. And I'm in a constant, focus of that as well.
The number one thing that I'm completely convinced would work for everyone, the only thing that I'm convinced would work for everyone, it's hard, back to everything we've been talking about, because it doesn't come natural to most people, but the ritual is practicing gratitude every morning. So I don't meditate or pray per se, but there's not a morning that I wake up in the world where when I wake up, including the overnight flight, where I don't look at my phone immediately. A lot of people like to wait to look at their phone, which I love. Remember when I said and, not or? One of the biggest reasons the world has conflict is people keep telling people what they should do, right? Like, I'm very happy that meditation works for you. It may not work for someone else. You can recommend, all I'm doing up here and saying, hey, think about this. But I don't judge anybody when they don't do what I do or what I hope they do. I want it for them. But for me, every morning I grab my phone right away, and if nothing horrible happened, and let this be very clear, nobody died of the 10 people I love the most. If nothing horrible happened, I am actually incapable of being upset during the day. I could be frustrated, I could be perplexed, I could be for a second upset, but I just don't know how to be upset about anything other than someone you love dying. I just don't think you should.
I believe that we are born with a lot of our traits. I believe we are then parented, and some of the traits go up and down. I believe we are environments of our neighborhood, our country, our culture. When I tell you the thing that comes least natural to me in the world is candor one-on-one, and for me to see where I am today as a 46-year-old man, everybody in this room has the ability to grow in many of these attributes. Most don't want to put in the work. Most would prefer not to do the things that come hard to them. Most would hope that it goes unnoticed. Nothing goes unnoticed. People may not tell you, but nothing goes unnoticed. I believe in the human spirit. The world is very black and white to me on this one. People evolve. People change. People can get stronger at certain things. People can get weaker at certain things. And so I am incredibly optimistic on humans' capacity to evolve. What it requires is first acknowledging its truth, seeing it. One of the reasons I produce the content that I produce is with the hopes that when I do this right now, literally when I tell you that I'm just hopeful that one person in this room is listening and something triggers, one, because that's profound. Saying a couple of sentences that shift a person's perspective, which allows them to start building towards a better place for themselves and the people they love, is a great gift. And I take on that responsibility, and I think everybody in this room who is fortunate enough to be in a happy place has a requirement to start communicating it. Because we live in a world today where negativity is incredibly loud and positivity tends to be silent. And I think if you are positive, you have an obligation to your fellow man to communicate it and make it louder. I think the thing that one of the biggest reasons I understood that social was gonna work was people didn't understand that humans' basic need is to communicate. Basic human need is to communicate, and social allowed people to communicate through pictures and words at scale, right? And when I was an early investor in Twitter, everyone's like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like in all of 2006, 7, 8, 9, that was my only conversation. Everyone's like, who cares if you're walking the dog? Who cares if you're eating pizza? Who cares if you're going to Spain? And my answer was always consistent. I said, everyone. And it really, really made everyone struggle, which was, by the way, at that point, no different than what happened to me in 1997 when I said, I'm gonna sell wine on the internet. And everybody in my world was like, why would anybody buy wine on the internet? You can go to the store. Who's gonna buy wine on the internet? And I said, everyone. And that's because what people struggle with is they make decisions based on themselves, their opinions, their self-interest, where they are in their career, instead of having the humility to look at scaled human behavior. History always tells you the future. I had an e-commerce site in 97. Do you know how many people did not want to put their credit card into a computer? Everybody here who has not wanted to take the 3 hours of work to build a non-custodial wallet doesn't realize they just became their parents from 25 years ago. Everything you made fun of your parents for, you've become. And I think that's cool, because that's what humans do, but it's very true. Right? For us, looking around this room, it seemed very simple in 99 and 2000 to put a credit card in. It didn't seem like high friction. To our 40 and 50-year-old parents, it was massive. They were completely scared of getting their credit card scammed and things of that nature. That's just what happens. You became your folks. I tell people all the time, you're in control. Like, you're in control of what you put out into the world. I deal with it and unpack it very easily. I put into the world what I'm willing to share, and I don't what I'm not willing to share. And too many people get caught up in the game. They want likes, they want followers, they want the blue check mark. And what usually does well? Kids, family stuff. But as a private person, that's not something I'm willing to share. On the flip side, I'm willing to be the most intellectually generous around everything that's ever worked for me. I think the thing that works for me is when I make a piece of content, I think most people, when they make content, say, what's in it for me? I'm gonna get likes. I'm gonna get a customer. I'm gonna get that blue check mark. I think the reason I have the career I have is from the first video I made about wine on YouTube in February 2006 to the stuff I put out today, my brain has always thought, why would anybody watch this? Like, why are you watching this? Like, why is this good for you? And for me, I have always lived under abundance.
I'm not going to talk about the wine company because I can spend the next half hour thinking about wine tax if you don't get it. Yeah, every day we wait for hey, wine tax? That's so fantastic.
Thank you.
Anyway, okay.
And, you know, I respect people's time. I don't have entitlement. I think I have to fight for it. And so I spend a lot of time reading my direct messages and my emails to try to figure out where the temperature is in the world and what are the issues and what are the opportunities, what do people struggle with, what have I never talk about anything I've never done. So I think one thing that's really worked for me is I don't talk about stuff I don't know. Yeah. I never tell people to do something I haven't done. You think you're so then you make pretend that you're good. You think you're so it's lack of self-confidence. So then you spend all your time on everybody else and fake pretending that you're good. Posturing. All to protect that you're weak. The reason I give so much trust, you know this, is because I'm strong. You me? Cool. You lost, not me. Compassion is really, like the difference between empathy and compassion is something I've been spending a lot of time for. There's a lot of people who like are nice and they're like, there's like a lot of sensitive people that are nice, but their weakness and their insecurity creates scenarios where they lash out and aren't nice. It's a funny one because if you're sensitive and like empathetic, you do have feelings. You actually have a lot of good, but it's your weakness and your sensitivity that's causing your bad. It's like some of the shit I heard at VCon. This guy's got to get in. He's got 18,000 Instagram followers. Come on. What does that even mean? Like, who talks like that? Everyone wants to go there so fast. Like, posturing. People's intent is selfish because they're trying to plug holes. My mother, in my circumstance, plugged my holes before they started, so I'm a grown-up with no holes. Of course I have holes, but like, a lot less than a lot of people. People live their whole life trying to close their holes. I'm like, the holes are closed. So let me go close other people's holes. I'm closing other people's holes. So I think a lot about these thoughts, like, because when you're confident but humble, you're just balancing, you know? You're purpling. Also, if you lack self-esteem, you're in trouble. Like, that's just, if you don't think you're good, it's over before it started. You lost when you woke up. Evan, thank you so much for having a couple seconds and being able to tell the Believe Nation a little bit about Empathy Wines. It means a lot to me that you would take this valuable real estate and time on your channel to give me some love. It means a lot. It's just good karma points, and so you're awesome. Thank you. Believe Nation, if you're into wine at all, go to empathywines.com. My whole career's work was poured into producing a wine that rivaled $40 to $60 wine for 20 bucks a bottle. I'm just super excited about this subscription-based wine business. You can order 3, 6, or 12 bottles in subscription form, rosé, white, red. If you search on Instagram or Twitter, you will be blown away. People are literally like, I don't even like Gary Vee, but the wine's good. Super proud of the effort. Thanks, Evan, for the time. Wishing you guys all happy and healthy.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Tom Bilyeu, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
There are certain habits that basically all wealthy people have in common that you guys can put to use in your life. And the first one is gonna be the most controversial, but I could not feel more strongly about this. They make no excuses.